Yo, what is up guys, Hikari here, back with another banger of a video for Wuthering Waves. Today, we are talking about something incredibly exciting. Wuthering Waves marketing has hit a new peak. We are on the front page of the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, and also the Epic Games Store. Now, marketing is very important for a game like this, but something very interesting that I found while going through these pages was actually on the Epic Games Store site page. I found the recommended specs and minimum specs required for your device to be able to run Wuthering Waves. So today we're going to be going over exactly what you should be running in your computer or device to be able to run Wuthering Waves. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the Wuthering Waves store page for Epic Games. As you can see, it's still on the coming soon, and you can still add it to your wish list if you want. It will be available this year, of course. We already know the release date. So let's just get right to where we're trying to take a look at. Okay, here we go, the Wuthering Waves system requirements. So I want to start with the minimum. So operating system version, Windows 10 64-bit or Windows 11 64-bit. Makes sense. So if you have a Windows 7 computer, even still in this day and age, for whatever reason, you're definitely not going to be able to run Wuthering Waves. For CPU, Intel i5 9th gen or a Ryzen 2700. Okay, so seems like mid-end CPU usage is going to be needed for a minimum recommended system requirement for Wuthering Waves. Memory 16 gigabytes. Now this is very interesting because if you notice for the recommended, it says 16 gigabytes and above. So it seems as if you have less than 16 gigabytes of RAM in your computer, you are going to probably have problems running Wuthering Waves. But what's even more interesting is that for your GPU, if you have a GTX 1060 or an RX 570, you actually meet the minimum requirements, which is wild to me because I'm pretty sure my friend runs a 1060 in his computer still, and that computer is like 10 years old plus. So the fact that you can run such an old GPU to run Wuthering Waves for the minimum, yet requires so much in terms of like RAM and memory with needing 16 gigabytes, I get why, because these games, especially when you look at, gameplay for this game, it's massive. Like there is a lot that this game is processing and showing on screen all at the same time, all the effects and combat. So I get why you need 16 gigabytes of RAM, but it's just very interesting that that's like the one thing that they could not get around. They were able to get around the CPU, the GPU, but when it came to the memory, the RAM, they were just not able to break around that whatsoever. And then for storage, you are going to need at least 30 gigabytes of storage. So I would say definitely have more than 30 gigabytes of storage because we don't know if there might be a day one patch and we don't know exactly how big the game is going to be. Oh yeah, if you look at recommended here, storage 30 gigabytes and above. So you definitely are going to want to have more than 30 gigs available on your computer before you try downloading this game. So getting into the recommended now, so they recommend that you have a Intel i7 9th gen, so still in the 9th generation, but they want you to have one higher than the i5, and then the Ryzen 3700 will also work for recommended. So it seems like they didn't have to go too high up from where they started for the minimum for them to be able to get the game to run at a good pace. And by good pace, I mean, let's say like 1920 by 1080 and 60 frames a second consistently. I would say that's pretty on average what most gamers are playing around these days. And then we already talked about the memory. You need 16 gigabytes of RAM or more. So I would imagine that if you have more than 16 gigabytes of RAM, if this game has an uncapped frame rate, which I imagine it would, and you have a high refresh rate monitor, you probably will be able to play this game anywhere from like 200 frames up, depending on how strong your computer is. This is, of course, assuming we have an uncapped frame rate. And then for the GPU, you need a GTX 2060 or an RX 5700 XT or above that. So just for a little bit of background from me, I'm running a GTX 3070 Ti, so I'm definitely going to have no problems running this game. And so those are the specifications that you are going to want to have for day one for Wuthering Waves. Once again, Wuthering Waves launches on May 22nd this year. It is an open world action RPG. I absolutely cannot wait to get my hands on this game. I'm so excited for it. I am honestly happy that Wuthering Waves is trying its hardest to make this game work on lower end systems. It is very nice that they are trying to accommodate as many players as possible for those who may not have super powerful PCs. But anyway, that's going to be the end of the video for here. I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Take care.